So obviously I've been struggling with depression and what have you for the past few days, and I had a breakdown on Wednesday. Some people must have thought I was really joking about the depression. I assure you that I wasn't. And even in the memoir that I'm writing about my family history, I talk about where great-granddad had depression and committed suicide, and depression comes from great-granddad's line, and some people say, well, if you're writing the memoir, aren't you giving away stuff? There's parts of the memoir I haven't even written yet, or written down yet, so. And the thing is, I'm writing down my family history anyway, so it's not a fictional story, it's a non-fiction story, obviously. And so for me, the depression was not just a publicity stunt or anything. I've really been struggling with things lately. I had surgery back in July, and I got these awful knots in my back, so I needed to work on correcting the knots. And for those who really are praying for me for matters that I talked about, I really appreciate it. And a lot of it, too, I noticed after I had kind of a rough day, and I just noticed, for example, things on my blogger and on my feed, for example. I want to see, okay, that's not it. Okay, so it doesn't show up on the feed, but it does show up on my blogger. Well, that's one thing, too. Apparently, so this isn't, one of the things is, Mesa, Arizona, Googled whether Rita Wilson is an anti-Semite, and, well, they had Googled Rita Wilson anti-Semitic remarks. Well, really, they came from Bing, and, so, because one reader had thought that, Rita Wilson, was definitely anti-Semitic, and, you know, hopefully when I'm able to make a difference and elucidate people, because I said in that blog entry that she might be anti-Semitic, and I didn't mention this in the blog entry, but I did mention that she's part of the Byzantine Vaticanist Church, and the Roman Vaticanist and the Byzantine Vaticanist, the so-called Catholics, the so-called Universalists, have a history of anti-Semitism. And I mean, even the fact that the Vatican became the Holy Hill, and that the Vatican tried to replace Mount Zion with the Vatican, shows you that there was definitely an anti-Semitism there. And it seems like the past 3 Vatican heads, at least, have been correcting it, and even Benedict XVI, even though for a time he did join the Hitler Youth, he said, you know what, I'm just going to run away from this. And so at least Benedict XVI corrected his, to say the least, and probably understated gravely, huge mistake. And also, I said that this didn't show up in my feed, but this did show up in my blogger, stats. And if it's not going to be too slow here, and okay, so let's see, this is the statistics for the week. One of the things that people Googled, or that one person Googled twice, is let's see, irritable bowel syndrome, Ashkenazi Jews, and being a Jew with irritable bowel syndrome, and that's part of things that I struggle with as well lately, because I have irritable bowel syndrome. Dad is Crohn's, Papa has colon cancer, although it's been in remission for a long time. I like when I'm able to help and have people make a difference. You know, I like when I'm able to help and make a difference. And a lot of people, like I said before, a lot of people said that I wanted to be famous or a public figure just for the sake of fame. You know, I wanted to make an impact somehow, at least when I got older. And when I see that I'm able to make an impact, that I'm doing something, because I've done a lot of things where I'm not popular, and a lot of things, you know, even by admitting that we're Jewish, I got into trouble with my family. I got into trouble with all sides for admitting that I'm Jewish, and, you know, trying to help other Jews, and even in terms of sharing the articles on Christopher Columbus, I'm sure that, you know, people are laughing and saying, oh gosh, here we go again. And even when I shared that last night I needed a glass of wine to sleep because, like, I was in pain. And not only that, but many times when I have a glass of wine, just one glass of wine, and I get sleepy. So, you know, like, one of my cousins said, which side was Kaiser? Can't be the Fotsko side. And I said, yes, it can be. And I mentioned that he has the R1A1 marker before, and, you know, other people are looking up. So if you go to Kaiseria.com, other people are looking up to see if they're Ashkenazi Jews, even though they might have the, what do you call it? Well, let's try the, okay, that's just a separate page on the care rights. Let's do the abstracts here. Jewish genetics, abstracts, and summaries. And if you go down, it talks about, let's see. Okay. Let's see. It says, about half of Ashkenazi Levites possess Eastern European non-Israelite halotypes belonging to the R1A1 haplogroup. This is almost never found among Sephardic Levites and may have been introduced into the Ashkenazi Levite line. Levite lines by Slavs or Khazars who converted to Judaism. And then it talks about the Ale, and it says the protective CCR5D32 Ale may have been introduced into the Ashkenazi population by Khazars. And the thing is, too, it said like only 20%, as I recall, may have gotten that Ale. So, and it does talk about the care rates, by the way, but let's see, it gives something interesting on the care rates, and I could find it here, 20, try that. Okay, so it's not on this page, but it's on another page. It did say about 20% inherited, that Ale, and, let's see, okay, so, I guess I would have to go to other pages on this site to find that statistic or Google it, but about 20% inherited that Ale, and 52% of Ashkenazi Levites we inherited that R1A1 marker, because the so-called rabbis, not only did they decide it would be okay to break the rule about intertribal marriage and say, hey, you know, since Benjamin was restored, we can extrapolate the whole thing. So not only did the so-called rabbis decide to break the rule about intertribal marriage. By the way, my family was obviously very concerned with that, but that's another discussion, because, well, just to make a long story short, they did marry into the tribes, and evidence of this is definitely seen, you know, in terms of the Rusnocks, and even Andy Rusnock. You can see he chose Julia Fosco. He specifically asked her to marry him and come over to America with him, and so he had, because his grandfather was the one who had converted. I should have said granddad, by the way. I apologize for using the word grandfather. But his granddad converted, and then her family, on her mother's side, well, obviously the Foscos were Levites, and then on her mother's side, you had the Hanzuks and the Lazars, and Lazar may well indicate descent from Eliezer to Cohen, because Lazar is a shortened form of Lazarus, or Eleazar. And so, trying to see if I can find that statistic here while I'm talking. Let's see. Okay, let's do it this way. Are Russian Jews descended from the Khazars? Let me see if I can find that 20%. It might be on this page. Okay, it is not on this page. It did say that like 20% inherited that Aledo. And then like, okay, it says, of course this one, One couple unfortunately said, one should remember that the Khazars were described by several contemporary authors as having a pale complexion, blue eyes, and reddish hair. Red, as distinguished from blonde hair, is found in a certain percentage of East European Jews, and this, as well as one more generalized light coloring, could be a heritage of the medieval Khazar fusion. Well, then I suppose they didn't read the Bible or talked about where Esau had red hair, and since Jacob was his twin, Jacob would have had to have red hair, and I suppose that they didn't see that picture that was shared on the Hebrew and Israel page where one of the ancient Israelites did have blue eyes. And also, by the way, it's really weird. Did you notice this too? We have brown hair. Many of us do in the family. Yeah, brown hair is not a native Slavic, or apparently it's not a native Khazar thing, although Khazars are supposed to be Turks. So, and of course, part of the reason that I'm talking about all this is because, oh, you know what? They might have couched it in the language of one. Okay. Fifth. For some reason, I'm not finding it, but I'm telling you, it did say that 1/5 inherited that Ale. And maybe, let me try one more search. 5. Okay, for 5. Okay, it said, first 5 Jewish families that settled in the town Ishishok in Lithuania came from Babylonia. Let's see. Multiple migrations. And I mean, even the fact that we were so aware of things. You know, like for example, we were aware of the Inquisition because when great-granddad was born, and I could go on to this in Wikipedia, of all places. Unfortunately, that's where you can get some information. But, okay, St. Anthony Claret. Okay, it says according to Wikipedia, St. Anthony Mary Claret was born, he was born on December 23rd, 1807, and he died on October 24th, 1870. That's really interesting to consider, by the way, because I thought he was born on October 24th, but he died on October 24th. And, of course, that's his saint day. So, of course, it's interesting that they picked Anthony to be my great-granddad's baptismal name during the pogroms. And then, of course, great-great-granddad Zarnecki would pick December 24th as his birth date. He gave once 1876 and then once 1877. So, of course, we never really know. And then also he did give great-granddad's birthday as October 23rd, 1904 one time. So it is very interesting how he fudged a lot of information and how he was very aware of the events that are going on in Spain. And not only that, but of course, you know, when you're trying to live as an Anusi, you know, you play around with stuff like that. You take information and you play with it in such a way that you can use it to your own benefit. And, let's see, it says this guy was a confessor of Isabella II of Spain, by the way. Isabella II of Spain. Okay. Well, she was born during the last years of the Inquisition. So I mean, obviously, great-great-granddad was very aware, and great-great-grandma too, very aware of the events that had happened in Spain and during the Inquisition and what have you. And I mean, we may have Sephardic heritage. I can't say that for certain. But by the way, too, notice this. For being such a Catholic family, we don't have one single Mary until, at least on the Zarnecki and Androvich line, we don't have one single Mary until it comes to my aunt, who is named for her living grandmothers. And, by the way, my great-grandma was not the first girl. And, I mean, just so many things. So, you know, when when people say, oh, well, it could be this or this or this or this, and it's like, well, you have to look at all factors, and you have to look at, yeah, there could definitely be inferences there. And one inference that I found very interesting is I was reading an article about, I think it was an Italian Jew, whose grandmother always told her to check for blood in the chicken, and he had to rinse out the chicken. I just thought that was something that was normal practice, that everyone would rinse blood out of their meat. And I remember Grandma doing that as well, I think. So maybe that's something else that I should have picked up on, since, you know, you're supposed to spill the blood to the ground, and who knows, maybe, you know, maybe rinsing the blood out of the meat was a Jewish practice that got incorporated over time. So it's also kind of funny, like, some people make all kinds of excuses, like the surnames Kagan and Kaganovich, and but if you look at the etymology closely, if you do your research, you'll find out that it's actually Kahan and Kahanovich. So anyway, that's another discussion, but I mean, there will always be detractors, and there will always be people who want to get down on you because you're trying to help others and trying to say, hey, this is my story, hey, maybe it's yours too, hey, there could be really something to some of the questions that you have. And I think a lot of times I don't feel like I'm necessarily very supported on doing what I'm doing. And as I said before, it's not like I like getting persecuted or told that, hey, you're this and this, and like, hey, you're just doing this and this and this and this and whatever. And anyway, I'm getting distracted now because I'm kind of looking at Facebook and Millie and all that. And I find a lot of interesting stuff on my timeline, by the way. Maybe, who knows, maybe if I feel like it and I can share it publicly on my Facebook page and then on my other account, maybe I'll do that. And, you know, so, it was kind of funny. Do you think you're depressed? No, Russian. It's two quotes of my friend. He posted a scene from a movie on his timeline. And, apparently it's the Endgame movie. I'm thinking, Russian? Maybe Russian Jewish. Bad joke, but I mean, if you do look at the Bible, and I'm going to look at, the Mekon Mamre one, because I think, too, the fact that great-granddad was that depressed perhaps should have tipped me off, and, you know, the black so-called Hebrews love to talk about how the curses apply to them, but when you read some of this, there's no question that the curses in Deuteronomy apply to Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardi Jews, Mizrahi Jews, and whoever else have you. It says, let's see, and among these nations shalt thou have no repose, and there shall be no rest for the sole of thy foot, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and languishing of soul, and thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear night and day, and shalt have no assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would it were morning, for the fear of thy heart, which thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see, or thou shalt see. And I mean, that's so applicable to Ashkenazi Jews and Sephardic Jews who have depression, or who went through the Inquisition and pogroms. And it also talks about, and it talks about in verse 64, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all peoples from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth, and there thou shalt serve other gods which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, even wood and stone. Doesn't that remind you of the icons or some of these statues that are built in the Vaticanist churches? I can tell you, when a lot of my family converted, they sure weren't joining Protestant churches. When they wanted to become a new theme, they were joining either one of the Roman Vaticanist churches or the Byzantine Vaticanist churches. And of course, like I said, you know, that's definitely some other people's story. And so I hope to help people like me, and, you know, help people And also another thing too, like when I'm reading about some of this Anusi, for lack of a better term, Anusi stuff, it really pisses me off because some of them feel like they have to give up Yeshua or Jesus, and I'm sitting there going, okay, if I wasn't a Christian, I wouldn't have even really cared about our Jewish heritage. I wouldn't have even suspected that we were Jewish. I mean, unfortunately, this is the same person who made a joke about Jewish apple cake, and what I didn't know at the time was Yom Teruah, but of course I made a joke about Jewish apple cake and Rosh Hashanah, and understandably my granddad got upset. And I didn't know that we were Jewish at the time, and so people think that, oh, because you're Jewish, now you have to give up Jesus, and the guy who founded Shavei Yisrael got angry at me, and he said, I could pull up his private message to me, because he had been a friend of mine, and one time he actually added me on Facebook. Then he got mad at me. I may have deleted his messages, I'll see. Michael, okay, shoot, I spelled it wrong. Michael Freund. Oh, wait. Michael Freund. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see, showing results. Okay. Maybe not, but he definitely got mad at me, and he said, info. Okay, different Michael. Let me see if I can find it in my email, because I do not delete most of my emails. I'll tell you that right now. I save most of them. Some of the ones, he definitely got mad at me. He even said that he added me as a friend, and then he got mad at me, and he said things along the lines of, it's a shame that instead of addressing the point I raised, you choose to hide behind a cliche, agree to disagree. Do yourself a favor and learn more about your heritage before you toss it away and embrace another. So this guy wasn't open to the fact that I'm Messianic at all. Then he defriended me. And, that's part of why. And I also call Shavei Yisrael into question, because according to Kazaria.com, if we go back to the Jewish abstracts shtick, where is it? Okay, Jewish Genetic Abstracts and Summaries. It says, B'nai Yisrael. Okay, alright, that's a different one. It says, Ethiopian Jews are almost exclusively Ethiopian, with little or no Israelite ancestry. Okay, so he does acknowledge that they have some Israelite ancestry, but very little. And, of course, where is it about the, the so-called B'nai Menashe? Menashe. It says, the Mizo people of northeastern India, the self-styled B'nai Menashe, have no proven genetic connection to the Israelites. And then that's where, of course, those like Michael Freund and Obadiah Yosef did and will do anything to make sure that they can find converts who they can claim to be the original Jews in order to delegitimize Messianic Jews like me. Although, obviously, Michael Freund, when he does legitimate work, actually does legitimate work. For example, he talks about the Kaifing Jews and the Anusim and Poland. And so when Michael Freund does the legitimate work, when I support that, but when he does this stuff to try to bring in converts and to delegitimize Messianic Jews who are from Anusi families like I am, then that's when I get really pissed off, and that's part of why I'm a little skeptical with Shavei Yisrael, although I do support some of the work that they do. And like I said, when they do legitimate work, and like I said, my contention is that they bring in converts to try to delegitimize Messianic Jews, and they obviously, as I said, just from reading you that email, you could see that he doesn't care for Messianic Jews at all. Oh, yeah, and he also tries to turn a Nusim who believed in Yeshua while they were a Nusim away from Yeshua. And I've even said, when I was done reading the Shavai Yisrael article about somebody Anusim in Italy, I said that it's foolish and stupid to give up Yeshua just because you find out that you're Jewish. And in fact, that's why I'm almost glad that I didn't find out that I'm Jewish before I came to Yeshua, because then I would have given in to the pressures of those like Obadiah Yosef and Michael Freund and trying to remember his name exactly, Area Kaplan, and just people like that. And by the way, just on a personal note, let me check his name. Oh, Area Kaplan. By the way, I won't shop at any Judaica site that sells books by him or by Asher Norman or any people like that. And if you want links to those websites, I'll update the description eventually and put like what sites, well, not what sites not to shop at, but what sites to definitely shop at if you want Judaica websites that do not take a position one way or the other on the question of Messianic Jews or Messianic Jewishness or what have you. And by not taking a position, I mean that they don't sell anti-Messianic literature or they don't sell pro-Messianic literature or anything like that. And so, obviously, like I said, they don't take a position. So, I mean, I want to be able to help people in those ways, too, and I did try to get Rosh Pina to post. Let me see if I can find it in my email, too. Wow, I've been really talking like this is a radio show, okay. You can obviously, God willing, tell what I'll be someday. And it's funny, too. Do yourself a favor and learn more about your heritage. Kind of sounds like my dad. Like, do me a favor. Give me a favor. Anyway, I was just reading the Michael Freund email. It's kind of funny. It's just so much how he sounds like Dad with the do yourself a favor thing. Anyway, okay, so some of the websites that, I said, okay, so here are some websites that are hostile to, World of Judaica is? Okay, wait a minute. Oh no, that's one of the non-hostile ones. Okay. Here are some of the hostile ones I read by accident, because I had commented on Rosh Pina's page, because they had asked, got a story for the Rosh Pina project, and, so the sites that are not hostile to Messianic Jews, include CanaanOnline.com, World of Judaica, and JudaicaWebstore.com, and then there are other ones, and then the ones that are hostile, I could tell you right off the bat, and I've stopped supporting them since. Let's see. See if I can find it. Okay, here's some of the hostile ones. Some of the hostile ones are Eichlers.com and LevineJudaica.com. Both are extremely okay. Okay, so I'll post a listing of the ones that are hostile in the description, and I'll post ones that are not hostile in the descriptions. So see, like I said, I like it when I can help people make a difference, and I support legitimate work. I do not support illegitimate work, and, you know, I'll continue to hold the position that I'll support legitimate work, but I will not support illegitimate work. And, you know, like I said, I like to make a difference in the world, so obviously I hope that explains some things. I hope that clarifies some of what I've been going through. I hope that... Anyway, how long have I been talking? Wow, I can really kvetch to like 29 minutes and 35 seconds here, and I'm going to stop at about 29 and... Well, okay, I'll go on for 5 seconds just to be polite, but there you go.